You're listening to The Principled Entrepreneur with Caleb and Jodi Moore, where we dive into real stories of grit, growth, failures, and victories. Every conversation is about the journey and what it really takes to build your business and your life on purpose and principle. Hey everybody, thanks for joining The Principled Entrepreneur. I just got done interviewing myself, John Weatherby. He is actually a director over at FEMA, but his life is fascinating because he would quote himself as being a serial entrepreneur. And in life, he's done many, many different things. And we walk through all of these very interesting things as he tells us his life story and also some of the interesting things that he's done at FEMA since he's been there the last 3 or 4 years. You're really going to enjoy this. You're going to learn a ton of stuff. You're going to learn how an entrepreneur like him talks about bringing people together. That's his thing. He's a conduit of people. That's what he would say. He's not the smartest guy in the room, but what he does is he wants to get great ideas in a single room and bring people together, and which is just a fabulous way of doing business and thinking things through. So you're going to enjoy this. Stay tuned. Here's John Weatherby. Mr. John Weatherby, thank you for being here today. I'm excited that you're here. I've heard a lot, I've read a lot, and I think I'm gonna learn a lot today about some of your journey and your story, and I'm excited. And for the audience, your role right now is a Federal Disaster Recovery Officer with FEMA. Is that right?
Yes.
And how long have you been in that role?
Right about 5 years.
About 5 years?
Yes.
Okay. And you are from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Is that right?
I have lived in Hattiesburg for about 25 years. I'm originally from a little town called Indianola, Mississippi, home of B.B. King, right in the Mississippi Delta.
Okay. So you've been in Hattiesburg.
Mm-hmm.
You've met Brett Favre. You've done the whole Brett Favre thing, right? So you're
my neighbor.
He's your neighbor, right? Everybody knows him down there. Southern Miss University, right? Is that where Southern Miss is?
I'm actually an Ole Miss guy, but Southern Miss is
Well, so
located
that was
there.
a question I was going to ask you. Is like in Mississippi, you're either Miss States or you're Ole Miss. So since you're the wrong side of the SEC for this podcast, which one is it? Yeah.
Well, a lot of this will be settled tomorrow in Oxford when y'all's pigs will come over.
Yeah, that's true.
Hopefully we'll take care of that.
Okay, so you're a Miss State guy. Sounds like
No, I'm an Ole Miss guy.
No, you're an Ole Miss guy. Okay, all right.
Golly.
No,
we can end this quick.
Oh, okay. So Ole Miss. All right. I've got another friend who is a huge Ole Miss. He graduated from Ole Miss, and he's a professor at Tech. So this is the time of year where I usually get stuff thrown in my face. So I'm not bashful about it. It happens all the time.
No, that's part of the fun.
All right. So let's start earlier than FEMA. Okay. Just back me up. Mississippi boy, growing up, and you love entrepreneurship, it sounds like to me. So start me off. When did you first start this journey of entrepreneurship?
All right. So entrepreneurship is, I have been told by my wife and my banker and my lawyer and others that it is a mental disorder. And it's something that a true entrepreneur, you can't help yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I am first. Are you familiar with dyslexia?
A little bit, yes.
Okay,
yeah.
So I'm dyslexic and ADHD, and my mind races, and I don't necessarily look at things in a linear fashion. So instinctively I connect dots. So it's kind of like, okay, and just my personality, my nature, I intuitively watch people and learn from them and try to pick up traits. And I've learned that you can find a shiny spot on just about anybody. And then if you polish it a little bit, you leverage it, then you can get anything out of them. You know, you can.
Yeah.
So, if it's just you, then there's a single point of failure. So from the very beginning, I always was putting teams together. And it's kind of like, hey, we can, there's no saying that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So that to me has been the whole essence of the entrepreneurial journey, looking back over it. So it was never, oh golly, I'm going to go do X, Y, Z. It was like, oh wow, there's an opportunity. And honestly, for myself, it hasn't been how do you make a lot of money out of it. It's how do you solve a problem.
Okay, right.
And I've done well on some projects, but most of them, I look back and go, wow, I could have done this, this, and this better. But you don't get a do-over. So you do the best you can when you can. And when you look back over history, you got some hits and you got some near misses and some strikeouts, and that's life. But life's about the journey, not the destination.
And that's what I want to talk to you today about, is that journey that you've had. It sounds like you've had some peaks and valleys along the way. Give me one of the peaks that you've had along the way.
All right. So as I told you earlier, and we'll get this out of the way, I firmly believe that if I'm the smartest guy in the room, I'm in the wrong room. In this case, with the people in this room, we'll see. But, whatever. But one of the best examples of being able to build a collective team is, and I hate to take you all the way back to the 90s, but I had a little consulting company in Oxford, Mississippi. And I had this computer professor, a guy named Dr. Tobin McGinnis, who has since passed. But Tobin did our computer stuff, whatever that was. It's like, I'm not a technologist. I understand the concepts and can apply those concepts against a challenge, a problem set, and then you go find really smart people that can do the detail stuff.
Right.
So I know just enough to be dangerous.
Okay.
So I had no idea what he was talking about, but I knew that he was very excited. I knew he was very smart. So I said, okay, tell me about it. And he started telling me the tale of open source software. And this was in 95. So it really just kind of started kicking off. It's Linux and all this other insanity, all this black magic. So what fascinated me most about the open source software concept was the license agreement. So if I develop something, in this case, a piece of software, and it does X, and I transfer it to you, either give it to you, I can't sell it to you because in there it says that I can't sell, I can't charge you for it.
Okay.
And you can share it. Okay, well, how do you make money off that? Through service and support. Okay, so it's almost like the old razor blade. You give somebody a razor and then you sell a razor blade.
Yeah.
So I liked the concept, and what I really liked was the fact that you were building on you're standing on the shoulders of giants.
Right.
I've got something that's cool. Okay, I put it on the table. It's like Legos. Okay, everybody's got access to the same Lego bricks on the table. But my ingenuity, my creativity, how I put it together, that's what makes it unique.
Right.
And then I put it on the table and you go, wow, that's cool. But what if we add this?
Yeah.
Ooh. Now, I have the choice to accept that or not. But if you and I collaborate on it and then we put it on the table and then Tal, says, oh, what about this? Then, it grows exponentially. Right. So that's all fun. But what Tobin wanted to do, he wanted to build a training and certification element for that, which is great because he was prototyping an idea. Okay. So I talked to another buddy of mine that was a publishing guy. And in 14 months, we had this guy publicly traded. Wow. So, it just, boom, exploded.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, that's fun. Let's do it again. So, and I got to meet, Silicon Valley people and people all over the world and was hanging out with the guys that actually created, like, nobody will know these names, but like on my first board of directors, I had, Richard Stallman and Eric Raymond and Bruce Perens. Like Bruce is the guy that came up with the term open source. Eric wrote something called the Hackers Notebook. What was it? I can't remember. Anyway, a long time ago. But great, just brilliant people. And I'm just learning through osmosis. And And I was sitting around after we had closed that deal, and I thought, okay, what's next? I said, well, I think this would work great in the government, because why is it that the big system integrators, the usual suspects, they'll build a program and something will happen and they'll go, wow, thanks for the $100 million. If we only had $200 million, we could fix the mistakes in the first one.
Right.
I think that's insane.
Yeah.
But that's business. So, being good Ole Miss frat boy, I had some friends that, been in school with, and I could get in and see them. And one of them in particular was a congressman. And there's no adage, it's not who you know or what you know, it's what you know about who you know.
Okay.
So I could get in, and I got to see some pretty high-level people. And I was talking to them, and I remember this one guy who will leave out, but let's just say he was the Senate Majority Leader. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there explaining to him about Linux, this operating system. And he looked at me and he goes, John, that's fabulous. Now, is this the air conditioner that we're talking about? It's like, man, back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
So I said, well, sir, kind of, sort of, but let me get back to you on that.
Yeah.
So I went home and kind of regrouped, and I thought, okay, how do we solve this? And so what I did is I set up a trade association, and it was 501c6. Everybody says nonprofit, and they think C3, which is a charity, but there are a whole bunch of them in there.
Right.
And a 501c6 is a trade association. And I came up with a cool name called the Open Source Software Institute. And then I started calling my buddies in these different companies and said, look, I can get in. I can get in the door. But when I get in the door, they just see me.
Yeah.
They need to see us. So next time I showed up in D.C., I had representatives from Intel and Red Hat and IBM and Oracle and, the who's
all
who.
Of them. Right.
And, we were just beer drinking buddies that had grown up on this stuff. But to the government, it's kind of like, oh,
it's serious.
Homeboy brought some heat today.
Right.
Let's see. And one thing led to another, and the corporate guys started saying, yeah, there's money to be made here. And so I found this little element within the Navy down on the Gulf Coast, and I befriended the CTO, and he referred to me as Bubba Linux. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Mm-hmm.
Mississippi.
Exactly.
Quote. Right.
So as a crusty old guy, I'd been in the Navy 27 years, and he said, okay, what do you want? And I said, sir, all I want is an opportunity to get in front of your technical staff and to see if they're using any of this software, any of this technology, types of technology within your systems. I said, I don't want to see your data. I just want to see the plumbing. I want to see what you're using in the background. And he said, well, to humor you, yeah, whatever. So I go down to Stennis Space Center and in this room full of people, and the guy stands up and he goes, I got this guy named Bubba Linux today, and he wants to talk about open source software. Guy in the back raised his hand. What? How do you spell open? What? I'm from Mississippi. I can spell open. And he said, well, how do you spell it? O-P-E-N. He goes, it's not OPM, which is Office of Personnel Management, which does their paychecks. Half the room gets up and walks out. They thought I was going to talk about a retirement account. Oh. And it's like Rodney Dangerfield. Oh, tough crowd. So, I let them leave and kind of regroup, and then I start talking about it, and everybody was quiet. And the CTO stood up and goes, okay, you've heard all this. Now, are we using this stuff? Everybody in the room raised their hand. And he goes, how come I don't know about it? Said, sir, the reason you don't know about it is because we don't have any problem with it, and we don't have any budget overruns with it, and we don't have any this, and we don't have any that. It simply works. And he said, but the Navy doesn't have a policy for this. So he knew that they were either going to have to rip out all this stuff that was mission critical, or they were going to have to figure out how to catch up. So he called me and he said, okay, look, we're going to do this thing called a CRADA, which is a Cooperative Research and Development Agreement. Basically, they're not going to pay me anything, but they're going to allow me access to their IT. Okay. And people are saying, why are you doing this? You're not getting paid for it. I said, there's something more valuable than a quick buck. Don't step over a dollar to get a dime. So I called, again, some folks I knew, and I said, guys, I can't pay you, but, man, we can make a mark on this. So I conned some people to come over, and we did this report, and then presented it at a Southeastern CIO, Chief Information Officer, conference for the Navy. And I'm up there doing my little song and dance, and this guy in the back of the room raises his hand. He goes, Mr. Weathersby, yes, sir. What's the Navy's policy on open source software? And I said, well, sir, I don't know who you are. And he goes, my name is Dave Wintergren. I said, Mr. Wintergren, thank you. What do you do? I'm the Don CIO. And I said, what's that? He goes, I'm the CIO of the Navy. And I said, well, sir, honestly, I think you would probably know more about the policy for,
right,
than I would.
Right.
And I looked over, and my guy, he's going, don't talk like that. He's got eggs, scrambled eggs on his head. And so I just figured, well, dead man walking, eat all the fruit in here because you're never coming back in. And when I was getting some coffee, Wintergreen came over and said, he literally said, what are you doing for the next couple of years? And I'm thinking, well, probably Gitmo.
What jail am I going into?
Being a smart ass. And I said, well, what do you need, sir? And he goes, I understand that we're using it because we were able to show them with their own numbers where they're realizing 900% cost savings adapting this technology across their network. And
wow.
It wasn't just one application. It was a myriad. And I said, well, so, what do you need? And he goes, well, we need a policy written for the Navy. And I said, yes, sir, you probably do. And he goes, I want you on that committee. I want you to be the industry representative on that committee. It's like, you talk about punching over your weight. I'm just some little redneck from the Delta. But, yeah, great.
Okay.
So I got put on this committee with all these bigwigs in the Navy. And, they wanted to do it so complex and all this. And I said, look, it can really be simple. We can just say that open source software has to be as good as price-wise and security-wise and, support-wise and everything else as anything else on the table.
Right.
Just have a level playing field and let the market decide. Mm-hmm. So the original policy went from 40-something pages to 3 pages. And it was just, okay, here it is. If it works, if it can go through these certifications, if it has all this, then you can use it. And they, you always have an opposing side. Yeah. So, and that was back with Microsoft, Balmer and all them. Oh, it's a cancer. Thanks. Appreciate it. And in retrospect, and sorry to chase rabbits here, but I had one of the buddies that wrote the actual report. I was talking to him the other day, and he works for Microsoft now. And Microsoft just open sourced one of their just core things, 30 years too late.
Yeah.
And we were laughing about, wow, if Microsoft back in the day had said, instead of saying this is a threat, we're just going to ignore it and then try to kill it, if they had looked at it in a more pragmatic way, A, open source wouldn't have had the dynamic growth it's had, and B, Microsoft would be, in my opinion, a better system. I'm allergic to Microsoft stuff. I haven't used this in 1986.
So you mean the Department of Defense, they bring you in, the Navy.
The U.S. Navy.
And they don't have a policy on open source. Most of them think that
That's
open
cancer.
means something completely different.
Yeah.
You come in there, you train them, teach them what open source is and how it can help them in their problems. They hire you to do that, which saves them money and time, right?
And we changed the way the military does business. Now then, that would be a great way for me to say, yes, look, I'm such a smart guy. That is not the truth. The truth is, what I did is I recognized that they were asking and they were telling us what they wanted.
Yeah,
So
you found
I
the
went
need.
and found the smart people that could write and do all the things. So, I mean, an entrepreneur, again, recognizes the challenge, recognizes the problem sets, and then go and gets the tools.
Yeah.
So I would love to say that I did all that. I facilitated it, but
You were a conduit
I was a conduit
of problem, people,
put them
solution,
together and solve a problem, and
and
everybody gets paid because everybody's got to eat.
Sure. Yeah.
And again, it's
It's a little bit funny that the government, because when you think about government, you think overspend, overcomplicate, and you don't have any recourse of like how does this budget balance? Like they used to.
okay,
But you in your situation here, you accomplished all of those things. You made it simple.
we
You
accomplished.
you and your team made it simple with saving money, and you still solved the problem.
Well, here's the deal: it solved the problem, and some of the benefits were that it saved money and it was more efficient.
That's right.
So, and that has been the recurring theme, and that's why I'm in FEMA now. I mean, I stumbled into FEMA, and the reason that I've moved up the ranks so quickly is because it's about. I know this is the way we've always done things, but what about this?
Oh, all
And
right.
you're going to fire me. I've been thrown out of nicer places. Okay, respect the leadership, but
So-
don't be afraid to speak up and say, guys, look, let's consider other options, and if they're valid and if they rock and roll, here,
So
take credit for
I
it.
want to get to that too, because in FEMA, you've been in there for 5 years. You said
Yeah,
you've seen a
that's right.
lot. You've been deployed to
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
different natural disasters that
Yeah.
FEMA's had to do. Name a few of those that you've worked with the last couple of years.
Okay, it started off. Can I give you a little backstory?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I thought I was retired. Okay, sitting at home. How's a good Southern story start? I was sitting home minding my own damn business.
With your sweet tea. You
it
don't
was
forget the
sweet.
sweet
Well,
tea.
actually, I was sitting on the front porch with Coors Light, and my wife said, "Don't you need to be doing something? Because you're getting under my feet." So I had a buddy. I've never served in uniform, but I've always been associated with for 30 years, military in different capacities. And so an Army buddy of mine called me, and he was coming back from Poland, and he, I think he was a major at the time, so he was trying to get his troops that were about to demobilize come off, and he said, guys, look, you got to get jobs when you get out. So they were going through all that, and he said, why don't you try something like FEMA? Oh, that's hard. It's so complicated. And he goes, oh, I'll show you how to do it. So he filled out the form and he sent it in just randomly, just as an example. Well, FEMA called him and they hired him. And he called me and he goes, send me your resume. And it's like, he and I have worked on some really cool projects. So I always know I'm going to get in trouble with him. And it's like, I'm retired. He goes, send me your resume. Ugh. So I sent it and FEMA called me. And it's like, okay, well, I don't know anything about it. I'm used to creating disasters. I don't know anything about cleaning them up. And I just figured it'd be fun, So they called me, and I signed up, and then went through the little basic training stuff. No clue about what's going to happen, or even what the mission objectives really were. And so I hadn't heard from him in a while, and I thought, oh, well, I'm just going to call him and tell him, if nothing's going on, then I'm going to go do some, just take me off the roll. And my wife and I were sitting, we were in Atlanta and eating dinner one night. I was about 3 glasses of wine in, Oh, I was real funny at that point. My wife tells me all the time, she's the adult in the room, the linear thinker, the smart. She's everything I'm not. She's smart, pretty, honest, respect. And the phone bings, and it says, we have a deployment for you. Well, sure, click. And then it bings again. It goes, and it's Friday afternoon, about 7 o'clock. And it says, please report to Bozeman, Montana by 9 o'clock on Monday morning. Ha, 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 ha. Sure. So I said, honey, I'll be right back. So I went and called the number. And I said, there must be some mistake because, y'all hadn't called me in a while. And I'm eating dinner and I'm in Atlanta, whatever. And they said, no, you signed up. And if you hit that deployment button, then you're committed. Then I had a real problem. Then I had to go back and explain to my wife that, oh, yeah, by the way, darling, I've got to go to Bozeman, Montana,
Yeah.
And she goes, you're just going out to summer camp. I said, no, I'm going to help those poor people in Montana. No clue what's happening.
Right.
So, go home. I don't know what to take. I don't know how long I'm going to be there.
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So I just get on this airplane and I show up in Bozeman. I've been to Montana a couple of times. I love it. Oh, it's such
I
a
love
beautiful
Montana.
place.
Been there
so
several
beautiful.
times.
And we call it Bose Angeles because, all the people from California.
Yeah.
So here I am, I show up and meet somebody who's a FEMA person. And I said, what am I doing? And they said, well, we saw your resume and it said you had experience with nonprofits. And so you're going to be the philanthropy advisor. And I said, well, you do know I build trade associations. Nonprofit is such a subjective term. People say, well, nonprofit, how do you make money? Oh, you can make a ton of money with nonprofit.
Right.
So anyway, I became the philanthropy advisor and just got in, looked around. Said, wow, these are the resources. These are things we're doing. And it was fun. And we got a lot done. And then after we wrapped that one up, after about a year, they sent me.
And what was that one that you were working on?
That was when Yellowstone had the big floods.
Okay, so you were working on that was the Lamar River that got out.
Yeah.
In Yellowstone, washed out all the roads.
Yeah.
Right there, shut down the north entrance to the park.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep.
Because that's coming south down to from Montana south to Yellowstone.
Yep.
Yep. So that was a big one. I remember that one
and it hit
vividly.
some other places around the state too. So we usually it's a statewide issue. Declarations are for a state and then areas within the state, but it's usually pretty.
But that was federal land, so it was a little. Montana called it, but you were in Montana, but it was also.
Okay, so here's how that happens is. Say, okay, we're in Arkansas. Say a series of tornadoes come through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's a formula where hit many counties, did X, Y, Z. The state emergency management folks would go out and they would do an initial assessment the day of or day after, whatever. And they come up with a number. We think, this is how many people were hurt, this is how many houses, this is how much residential, infrastructure, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
They go back to the governor and they say, this is what we got. And, let's say it's bigger than the state can handle individually. So they have this formula on how many people and times whatever, and it comes up to this number. And if it is over this certain degree, then governor would send it to the president.
You call it they would call it a state of emergency, right?
The state of emergency, and then the governor sends it to the president. The people in the president's office and the executive office would say, okay, we're going to declare a national disaster. So once he gets presidential declaration, and then at that point, FEMA is activated.
It's deployed.
Yeah, and when FEMA comes to town, I always say when I show up, everybody's having a bad hair day. So when FEMA comes to town, we have three primary elements. We have individual assistance, which does, as it implies, helps homeowners and small businesses and stuff. And then public assistance, which does critical infrastructure and debris removal, that kind of stuff. And then the division I'm in, which is called Interagency Recovery Coordination. So we come in 30 plus days after the event and we work on long-term recovery. So basically what I do is economic development post-disaster. I put communities back together from an economic and critical infrastructure system. And so I have about 40 different agencies, federal agencies and sub-agencies that I can draw from to solve problems.
Okay.
Like if it's a critical infrastructure problem, power lines, gas lines, roads, bridges, my go-to would be the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay, I was going to say Corps of Engineers would be your go-to on that,
and
right?
And then, okay, so like in South Carolina, and one of our projects that I'm trying to talk to folks here in Arkansas about, Helene hit their power grid real hard. And so what we did is we went and we brought in the Department of Energy. And the Department of Energy contact said, well, we have a subsection over here called CSAR, which is cybersecurity, energy security, and emergency response. Everything in government is an acronym.
Absolutely. Right.
FEMA has a book that is nothing but acronyms.
Oh my gosh.
And the name of the book is an acronym. I mean, it's like. Anyway, I apologize. Okay, so what we did is the federal government brought in DOE, Department of Energy, and they also tapped Pacific Northwest National Lab and Savannah River National Lab. And collectively, the feds worked with the primary energy components, Dominion, Duke, Santee Cooper, which is a public entity, and a variety of regional power entities. And we did an assessment, or we're doing assessment now, of their entire power grid system, as well as their telecommunication broadband system. And from that, they will be able to see what was impacted, what were the weak points, what can you do,
Right.
For long-term mitigation and resilience.
Right.
And it's kind of like most people don't, pretty much everybody has a plan on what to do, but if you don't practice the plan, if you don't understand the plan, you're no better off.
So you're in these high-stake, high-pressure situations 30 days after you get called to come in. So you're looking around, and there's just people that could be without a house. There could be
housing, community assistance,
all kinds of really bad things that you're experiencing, right? So when you're in that situation, it's high pressure, high stakes. What principled leadership qualities do you have to maintain as you're in as you're in that situation?
First thing that I try to do is remember that everybody from the state and local side, they're the ones that have been hurt. So respect.
Respect would be number one.
And respect not only individually, but their position, because everybody is under super pressure. They're being, they're being pushed to the limit on everything they got to do. You've got to sort out what the priority topics are.
Okay.
Because, everything's on fire. Everything's torn up. Okay, from our position, what have we got to do to get the critical infrastructure going and to get people in housing and, any medical needs, any critical, we've rebuilt hospitals, in a what was it, National Guard armory. We do, it's crazy. But I love it because you're thrown into this environment.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, what do you do? Sit down, pray.
Yeah.
Say, okay,
right.
Lord, help me figure out.
Right.
And it's a team effort. So we've got 40 agencies. We've got 6 primary swim lanes that we look at it, because otherwise you'd be chasing rabbits.
Right.
And like if it's critical infrastructure problem, then like I said, we call on the Corps of Engineers, and then subset under that. If it's economic development, then I call the Department of Commerce, Economic Development Administration, and we do that. So it's just problem solving.
But so you come in as the federal government.
Yeah.
So you're the Fed. So they already are like, kind of like, your guys are needed because you have all the information, you have all the infrastructure and the support. But do they kind of have an attitude of like you're the feds when you come in, or are they mostly welcoming, or does it have to do with the respect issue that you talked about? As long as you present it in a way that is respectful and that you're on the same team, they're usually more receptive when you come in there to handle these situations.
But isn't that true in everything? I mean,
it
isn't that
is
true? And if
Yeah.
you walk in and you've got your, rear end up over your shoulders and say, "I'm the government, I'm here to help," I would expect people to smack you down. But if you go in and say, "You know what, I'm with you. I know you're hurting. Let's figure out how we can get this back. Right this ship and get you guys at least moving in the right direction." That maybe it's just a Southern, that's just the way we do things.
Do you think that that's a common trait or a rare trait?
Oh hell, I don't know. I mean, it's just
Well,
it's
in
just
your
who I am,
work
but-
and it's who you are, but in your career, you've been in lots of meetings. You've been on both sides of it. You're in the federal government side of it now. You've also been on the private side of it.
Yeah.
So you've been able to see
Well,
both sides
dealing
of
with
this.
the private side has helped me understand that you're here to solve a problem. See, that's a problem in government. Government doesn't produce anything.
Okay, and that's
They
what I
acquire things.
Okay, and that was my direction I wanted to go, is saying, okay, what's the difference in mindsets?
Totally
between-
different. But go back to motivation.
Uh-huh.
And respect is both sides. You've got to respect where the mayor's coming from, where the guy that owns the grocery store or the quickie mart. What is their motivation? Try to put yourself in their shoes.
So is that empathy? Would you say that's empathy?
Complete empathy.
Okay.
But also empathy back up the government side.
Okay.
Because they're all under pressure as well.
Right.
So as a connector, as a facilitator, as a cat herder, my job is to try to understand where they're coming from.
Right.
And how we can leverage what they have, what resources available, complement them or supplement them with federal resources, and get them where they're supposed to be.
But is it frustrating? I mean, so being from the private side, you would think that, in my mind, it works more efficiently when you go through the private side because you don't have as many hoops to go through. On the government side, it would seem, at least from what I've heard, the bureaucratic side of you have to go here, you have to go here, you have to go here. There are so many steps in that process that it drags that project or that problem so longer and more expensive, or whatever the case is. It seems like it's just harder over here because of the efficiency.
It's the nature of the beast.
Is that good or bad?
It's neither.
Okay.
Okay, so
It's just reality.
It is reality because you go into a situation, yes, you need to fix this right now. I know the rule says that, we're supposed to do 3 steps to fix it, but I got somebody that's hurting right now. You want to fix it.
Sure.
So, okay, but the person that's hurting, they don't care about the rules at that point.
Right.
However, when you're looking at it from a federated response, you are mandated by statute to do certain things. You have to adhere to the existing law. It's like right now, different administrations have different goals and objectives. I believe that you salute the flag. I don't care who's in the seat. I've worked
Sure.
under Democratic administrations, Republican administrations. I have my own personal views, but those don't matter.
Right.
And I hate it when people start
Yeah.
posting or projecting their own
Absolutely.
political stuff. That is not,
Right.
you're in the wrong business.
Right.
You know what? You're here to serve.
That's right.
Period.
That's
You
right.
signed up for it.
That's right.
So in the government, from a government side, we are there to help and serve, but we have to live by the law. And the law and the statutes are written looking at it with no emotional element there. It's if we're transferring money over here, then we've got to make sure that money is managed.
Sure.
Because
It's
something
federal
happens
money.
in
It's
Arkansas,
taxpayer money. Yeah.
if something happens in Arkansas,
Right.
okay, if FEMA came to Arkansas to do a repair, then the federal government would put up 75% of the money,
Yeah.
and Arkansas would put up 25% of the money.
Right.
Okay, something happens in Arkansas. Why should the people in Kansas or California or New York, why should they care?
Mm-hmm.
That's their money too.
Sure.
It's our collective money.
Right.
So that is why we have those regulations, because there's so much money floating around. There's so much chance.
And didn't we see that earlier in the year? I mean, we had all these reports coming out from Doge that says there's all this money and there's no accounting for it, and that's why the bureaucratic side of it seems to me like from the private sector side. Okay, so this is a private sector guy, business owner,
Absolutely.
and you've been the same way. We look at things, there's a profit and a loss statement, right?
Absolutely.
There's cash flow, right? And so every month I'm going over what happened the previous month, right, when I reconcile over what's taking place. And that's my mindset as I'm going through how government should run, but that's not reality.
That's because government's not personalized like that.
Okay,
And
and so-
government, you produce something,
Yeah.
and the government does not operate like that. It's a totally different animal.
Can it operate like that?
No.
It cannot.
It cannot.
It's impossible.
Government is not. When people say government needs to be run like a business, I personally believe through experience that is wrong because they are different species. A government needs to be run like an efficient government. There needs to be checks and balances.
Right.
The problem is it's so difficult for a politician to say no. And right now, yesterday or so, it first came out, you get rid of FEMA. You're not going to get rid of FEMA because the mission's too critical.
Right.
If we are too advanced as a culture and society, if somebody is hurt in Guam, we as Americans are going to help take care of those people. That's who we are.
Right.
Okay, so I'm not willing to accept that everybody's on their own.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a simple answer.
Right.
So FEMA's not going anywhere. Can FEMA be refined and made more efficient? Absolutely. As a businessman, the moment you think that you've got it all figured out and you can't improve and you can't be more efficient, you can't add more value, the only person you're fooling is yourself.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. So there's this harsh reality that FEMA had become a political element.
And it started in North Carolina, maybe?
No,
way before
good
then.
Lord, it started the day somebody developed FEMA, and it's kind of like, hey, we got this money. We can.
It's always been there.
It's human nature.
Yeah.
So it did not.
It seemed like it got really ramped up at North Carolina.
No, North Carolina got a lot of attention. They got a lot of media.
But it's existed for decades.
It's existed since FEMA began.
Okay.
FEMA is defined by something called the Stafford Act. And if you go through and read the Stafford Act, it is really a really good document. Mm-hmm. And it really lays it out. There's a lot of great, it's just, nothing's perfect, but it's a damn good foundation.
Right.
A day or two ago, the committee that was reviewing all the FEMA stuff came out with something called I love another acronym, Fixing Emergency Management for Americans Act of 2021.
Man, that's a
the
mouthful.
FEMA Act.
Yeah.
And I read it, and basically it says that we need to go back to the Stafford Act. We need more accountability. Yes, we need to be more efficient, and there are cash flow issues. You got to get money out to people that are hurting. You need to refine it. But at first glance, it's like, thank you, Lord. Somebody actually look back and say, what is our mission? How are we, how do we think we should get there? Let's close it in.
It's a leadership, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
When leadership to me is saying there's a vision, I have a vision, and here's the mission for the people. Like they are telling you, hey, we're going to operate this way, this way, this way. Like here's the outline of it, and then you motivate them to go and accomplish that vision and mission because that gives them a purpose, right? And people with purpose have a lot more. They will take that further together than they would if it was just the individual out there saying, well, I have a 9-to-5 job. I'm going to show up and I'm going to write my report. I'm going to send it in.
You're always going to have people that are just dialing it in. You're always going to have that. That's human nature. I have learned over my career, over my life, how invaluable true leadership really is.
Right.
There are visionaries, there are leaders, there are doers.
Right.
A football team is not made of quarterbacks. A football team is made of 11 people per side. Each has a job to do. And if they do their job well together,
Right.
then they can be successful. It's not guaranteed.
No.
It's just you've got to have different people with different temperaments, talents, and convictions that are working together as a team.
Right.
And every once in a while, I think it's very healthy to have a ground check and just say, are we doing this right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can't self-assess,
Absolutely.
then you're moving blind.
That's right.
And, it's easy, so easy, especially with all the social media, to say, well, you're not doing this right. You're not doing,
Right.
I have a big voice. I can say, get in there and do it. Is it fixable? Absolutely. Do I
Right.
think they're moving in the right direction? Yeah, I sure hope so.
Yeah. So you think that over the last, I don't know, year, 2 years, 6 months, FEMA's reassessing, it sounds like, being more efficient, asking the right questions, having the hard conversations so that you can be on top of the natural disasters faster and help people more when you get that phone call that hurricane, tornado, flood comes your way. So you feel like that's turned the curve a little bit from where maybe it has been in the past.
Yeah. And even if you had the most efficient, best running thing in the whole wide world, if a tornado came through and tore up Russellville, tore it down to the rails.
It's hit this office before. Yeah.
Okay. In that type of chaotic environment, you're always going to have people that feel like they've been left out,
Sure.
or something didn't happen fast enough. That is an unfortunate nature of the beast. I look at it like I'm thankful that our country is where we care enough about each other to where we've organized something to where we go and take care of folks.
Right.
So that's just the way I see it.
I think it's fascinating. I want to hit this and then I'll go someplace else. But I think it's fascinating you said, hey, government is government. You can't operate
Government like a business.
You can't operate government like a business.
Or you couldn't run a business like our government. You couldn't just say, well, I want to go, you're in real estate. I want to go buy this piece of property and I'm just going to write a check for it. And if I don't have the money in the bank, basically I'll just print it. That, you know what? You have different rules that you have to live by. You have different mission objectives. And government has different objectives.
But should the government then, so you mentioned earlier checks and balances,
Yes.
right? It should have checks and balances.
Absolutely.
Should one of those balances and checks be that they have to have an audit that they can pass every year?
Above my pay grade. You know what? Technically, in a perfect world, yes. We are a very large, very complicated society.
Mm-hmm.
We have very large, but compared to the rest of the world, we do a pretty good job. Can we do better? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is it easy to criticize not just those in power, but those before? Absolutely.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So, after you get in and, punch it out a little bit, you kind of realize it's a tough job.
Of course. And you're never going to make everybody happy when you have.
Not in the best time. Not on this side.
Well,
of the
when you
Jordan
think,
River.
well, absolutely not. It's especially in FEMA because you have these natural disasters. Nobody caused that natural disaster. That is why it's titled that way. But people are homeless and they can't drive or they can't get to where they're going. Katrina was close to us, and you got so we saw a lot of the residual from Katrina, and it was a lot of blame being cascaded everywhere, and maybe duly so. But and then North Carolina comes along this year or last year, and everybody's doing the blame game, and then you've got Southern California, and the blame game starts all over again. So, is government ever going to be extremely efficient? No. I think you're right that it can't be extremely efficient, but can it be better? Because what you're telling me and your experiences in the private sector are helping what is going on in the government because you're taking what's happened over here and you're applying it over there from your experience.
It's a symbiotic relationship. We're all tied in together. And, all right, can I take my FEMA hat off and tell you one of the things that Chris and Tal and I are trying to...
Absolutely.
Okay, so I mentioned earlier that you've got challenges, and I think an entrepreneur looks for the opportunity in a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if everything's going fine, like right now, there are no active disaster. Well, they're active disasters, but there are no, everything's cool right
Right,
now.
right.
So that's why I'm antsy.
Yeah.
It's like, you get nervous when everything's fine.
Nobody's blowing your phone up. You're not
Exactly.
getting deployed right this second. Yeah.
Exactly. But I was talking to, that's the reason I'm here today is about 9 months ago, I got a call out of the blue, and this guy just, I'd written this article about how to do cybersecurity for your church. And this guy called and he said, I read this article and I want to talk to you. And that was Chris. And okay, whatever. So we started talking, and we started corresponding. And he started telling me about his business, his cybersecurity business, Arctos, and I realized that the guy is brilliant. Just raw intellect. Love it. I've had several people that worked for me, young people I've essentially mentored, and they just had horsepower, intellectual horsepower. Yeah. And you want to help folks like that. Yeah. So I started saying, all right, have you considered this? Have you considered this? And then I started looking at y'all's area of Arkansas, and I'm thinking, oh, wow. Y'all have got real opportunity over here. Really, really do.
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things about traveling all the time is I get to see people's budgets. I get to, meet
that's
with
right.
everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, wow. And then I told him, I said, FEMA's evolving, and your governor seems. I love your governor, by the way.
Yeah.
And her dad.
Yeah.
We've been
Governor Huckabee's done a very good job. Yeah.
I think she hung the moon. So, and I really hope that she has future aspirations, because I'd love to see her eventually somewhere
up the totem pole. Yeah.
So I started talking to Chris, and I said, Chris, FEMA is evolving. And while everybody's running around with their hair on fire, the person that can have focus and vision, that's the greatest environment for entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
Because everybody's distracted. That's when you can say, oh, there's a prize. I say, okay, as FEMA evolves, somebody ought to stand up and say, sir, I understand your objective, or at least I share the same horizon. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. He's in office right now, okay? He said, this is what I want to see done.
Right.
You can either go suck your thumb, sit in the corner, or you can man up and let's try to help.
Right.
I would love to see Arkansas say, okay, we were going to take up the challenge, and we're going to figure out how to refine the system to meet these objectives. The feds will help you do that to accomplish that mission, but it's a thought leadership opportunity. And that's what we're doing. We're sitting around talking to folks saying, hey, here's a challenge. You up for it?
Right. Yeah.
And we've got several projects like that.
What opportunities do you see in Arkansas? You said you could see a lot of potential here. What are those potentials that you see?
All right, so the power grid and the telecom assessment, one of the things that we're trying to do is hook people in Arkansas up with folks in South Carolina that are actually going through it. Build relationships. I want people on a first name basis. I know the CTO over there in South Carolina. I want to get the folks from Arkansas to say, okay, how are you doing it? What are you learning?
Right.
Is this something that we can do?
Sure.
Hook them up with the Department of Energy folks. You've got to build those relationships, that connection.
That conduit.
And then nobody's going to force them to do it, but if you can be better watching somebody else, that's the difference between wisdom and experience. Experience is watching, getting hit in the nose. Wisdom is seeing somebody else get hit in the nose.
And not do that.
Exactly. So if we can learn together,
right.
While you're in this situation, you're smarter. You're
That's
better
right.
off. Food safety and security. With all the poultry industry, with all the farming industry, food safety and security is essential. we made a list of all these projects. We've got 9 projects, and we're qualifying them right now and prioritizing them. And there's possible, there's probable, and then there's essential. Food safety is essential, and we work with the group, ladies from Clemson.
Just real quick, what is define food security? Define that, just real quick.
It is a broad category. Okay, so essentially, in my mind, what do y'all have, really? Okay, I think agriculture is like $25 billion in your economy. It runs 15% of your jobs.
It feeds
the country.
It's the greatest GDP in Arkansas. I mean, it's the number one industry.
You got poultry.
You
got you've got row crops
in the South Arkansas,
all through the Delta. When I was driving up here, I was going through the Delta, and it's just I mean, I grew up in the middle of a cotton field.
Yeah,
I love seeing it.
Yeah, we got rice down there.
Rice, corn, sorghum, any kind of stuff like that. You've got fisheries. You've got timber. You've got
with a natural state for a reason. Yeah,
absolutely
right.
So, if a lot of people say, well, it's kind of like with the power grid. Well, what if a terrorist came in and did X, Y, Z? Okay, yeah, that's sexy. But what if there was a disease that impacted the chickens? Okay, it spread like wildfire.
Yeah,
now, I know that the poultry folks. Companies they've got people that are on top of that.
We've had that flu thing.
The flu thing.
Right.
Okay. But there is a group that I've worked with, and they focus on it from a southeastern United States perspective. And Arkansas is in it, but there are additional resources. It's kind of like, I saw this happen over here. Do you guys know about it? Let me introduce you to the people.
Yeah.
And you get into the logistics of it, the transportation.
Yeah.
Agriculture is complicated.
It very much so.
And if you can learn from somebody else, so you don't have to make that mistake, or if it happens, then you know who to call, you're better off.
Yeah.
And that's what I look at. Military bases. You've got military bases over here. Chaffee. They're all over.
Right.
In Mississippi, I worked with the military, the adjutant general tag. It's kind of like, okay, then I was focused on Camp Shelby Joint Forces Training Center, which is in Hattiesburg. And when they were drawing the troops everybody's concerned about BRAC, base closure. So I worked with the Mississippi National Guard, say, okay, how can we identify economic development practices that are associated with the installations to demonstrate we're more than just military. That has an enormous economic impact on a community. If something happens at base, it's going to affect everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
So first you identify what the like the Lowe's and Home Depot in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, when that base is active, they've got the highest numbers of any place in the country.
Right. Yeah.
That's
They're
not
expanding the one in Fort Smith. I don't remember what that base is called in Fort Smith, but right now they're doing what you're talking about. It's huge economically to Fort Smith is what, yeah.
Okay, but let me chase this grab a little bit more. So what we did is first you just get in, you meet people. Okay, what do you do? Tell me your pros, cons, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Okay. We found out that in South Mississippi there were 5 military installations, and I got to know the commander at Camp Shelby real well.
Right.
And I said, "Do you know commander over there?" And commander, no, not really. Whatever. Dude, that's your peer.
Right.
So first thing we did is we set up a luncheon every other month where we'd take the colonel from Camp Shelby and put him with the commander down at the Stennis Space Center. Just get them in a room.
Right.
Let them
Just
get
talk.
to know each other. Now, they rotate through, but if you have a method, a process, and then let them get to know each other a little bit, and then say, okay, guys, look, this is what you have in common.
Sure.
This is to your collective best interests. This is how we collectively need to work together for the betterment of the whole thing.
Right.
Where it turned out, my buddy I mentioned earlier, he's such an overachiever. He was doing his MBA, and he was studying a port in South America. He started looking at the port of Gulfport, Mississippi. Okay, why isn't it bigger? The channel's not dug out. Okay, so he called me, and we're sitting around, having a drink, talking about it, plotting and scheming. And we said, what would be a home run? He turned up getting, I helped, getting the port of Gulfport, Mississippi designated as the 17th strategic seaport, which is, the federal government made a $570 million investment in that port and expanded. It's just exploded.
Right.
Why? Because some knucklehead said, why not?
Right.
And then we facilitated it.
Yeah.
And
that's cool.
It's doable.
Yeah, it is.
And you guys with the nuclear plant over here, with the water, with the transportation networks, that's what gets me excited, because I look and say, oh, this has got great bones.
I've been in here talked to Tommy Lands, who's our land commissioner, and I've talked to Rainey Zook, who's the president and director of the Arkansas Chamber of Commerce. He's been in here, and a couple other people, Senator Breanne Davis, and I said, hey, that Arkansas River is a great waterway to go up and down with. It's cheaper to go up and down the river than it is to go up and down I-40.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a really big, same thing for Mississippi, right? It's extremely unique, and it goes all the way across to Tulsa. So you can go Tulsa to Little Rock and beyond. But you got to dredge the river out in order to do that, right? So that's Army Corps of Engineer. Yeah. Which has been difficult to work with. So anyways, I've heard a lot of reasoning and why it hasn't happened or why it'd be difficult, but I keep thinking that is a huge benefit to the state that I don't think we're utilizing very much. And some of it, and Mr. Zook mentioned this, he's like, and he makes a really good point. A lot of what we carry today is very timely.
Yeah.
And so you can't do that up and down the river as much. But I think that's definitely an area. But I want to.
Oh, wait a minute.
Go ahead.
On that. There's an old term: familiarity breeds contempt.
Yeah.
You know what? Most people see a river. What I see is
opportunity.
Opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
How many other towns have a port right
Yeah.
there? How many other towns have a nuclear facility?
Absolutely.
How many other towns?
I know.
And
I know.
You can look at them and go, yeah, well, it's there. I like to go sit on a pontoon boat and drink beer.
Absolutely.
That's great. But that is an economic engine.
That's right.
Right there.
I 100% agree.
And you can enjoy it, or you can fine-tune it.
Yeah. Well, where does the port and I-40 interconnect with Highway 7, which goes all the way up to into Missouri, and then you've got Highway 64, which is one of the longest highways in the nation. So I mean, it's a perfect point.
Another thing that people, I grew up camping up here. My dad loved Lake Ouachita, so I have done a lot of terrible things over there. But the land over here, the environment, it is beautiful. I mean, there are a lot of pretty places in the country, but I think this part of Arkansas, and it's just.
Mr. Lands would agree with you. He's been to almost all 50 states, he said, and he said he looks forward to coming home every single time because he thinks it's the prettiest state that there is. So I agree with you. We have a lot of natural resources while we're the natural state, a lot of opportunities. Governor Huckabee's doing a great job. Our legislative branch has done a really good job. Mississippi went income tax, state income tax to zero. We're heading in that direction. We can't do it all at once, but we're heading in that direction. Economic environment is a plus positive, which is good. So I think we're right. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I don't think we've met where we should have, but I think we're on our way.
Well, like we said earlier, you can always make it more efficient. You can always do it. And, sometimes it takes a knucklehead from, outside to come in and go, man, recognize what you got.
That's right. That's exactly right. So what is something that you learned the hard way that you wish you knew earlier in your career?
I don't think we have enough time or tape to go through that. I have made about as many stupid bonehead mistakes as you could possibly make, but I learned early that I learned more from my failures than I do from my successes. At least I get in and I'm thinking, oh man, we can make this, and this, and it's great. And then when it falls apart, you've got to discipline yourself, not to beat yourself up, but to look back and go, why?
Right.
What did I do? And
Right.
a lot of times, I was talking to Chris and Tyler. We went and met some guys in Fort Smith yesterday. Great meeting, smart guys over there. And there's another project I didn't mention. It's an advanced material called graphene. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of that. Yeah.
I was the chief executive officer of the National Graphene Association for a while until COVID came along and blew everything up. And I got to meet people, these smartest people I've ever met, all over the world. And a lot of this technology is so nascent that there's a lot of hyperbole around it. It tastes like chocolate and costs $1 and cure cancer. And it's like, no. You got to boil it down. And that's one of the things I'm talking to some folks over here is how can we make connections between the university system over here and the university system that I work with in the United Kingdom. Again, build relationships.
Connecting
what
dots.
Have you done? What can I do? How do we get there together? But anyway, sorry. Failures. I'm usually way far out ahead of the rest of the cavalry. And, I find out the hard way that it takes a technology or any kind of program has an organic growth pattern. And you've got to get in sync with how fast things are growing. Because it's easy to get excited about it. It's easy to see all the positives and ignore the negatives. And sometimes you got to say, it's not that time yet. Or, I love this idea, but it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
Don't fall in love with the project.
Don't fall in love with the project.
You've got to be able to say no.
Okay.
And when you're raising money, don't talk to people you know and love, because you've got to, that's the thing. I've dealt with VC before, and it's like, soon, when money gets involved, everything changes. So you've got to really be honest on what the possibilities are and make sure everybody understands that there's as much chance of failure as there is success. Everybody on the team needs to know that failure is right there at the door every day, and it is a real possibility and probably a probability. So go to work every day fighting like hell because you think that death is at the door.
Okay. Don't
take it for granted.
Well, so the quote I was thinking of is success is just on the other side of failure.
Absolutely.
So
don't take it for granted.
Yeah. So you've met a lot of different people in the areas of work, and you had mentioned that in these, you name dropped several people in the room, very successful people. What are the top 3 characteristics that you've noticed in these very successful people as you've been in the room with them, talking to them, seeing them operate meetings? What are their values, their principles, like their top 3, would you say?
Let's define success.
Let's define success.
There's a difference between making money, which is great,
right,
and then money.
That's great. Well, that was one of my questions: is personally define success, and how has that changed over the years?
I believe that life is about the journey and not. It's about the destination. It's about the journey and not the destination.
Yeah,
we're all gonna die.
Right.
Okay. When I look back, I want to make sure that I've impacted positively. If you ask me what's important, God, family, country. I've been a pretty good father. I've been a pretty good husband. Best I can work with. I'm married way over my station, so my wife's a whole lot better.
I did the same, so I understand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've got 4 wonderful kids, and they're all growing out of the house, and so I consider that successful. If I didn't do a thing else, I'm Christian, that's the most important thing, period. That's top of your thing. Second thing, family. And then I've had the opportunity to work on projects and impact things. And I've made some money and I've lost money and, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
God takes care of me. I've got enough, if I had a lot of money, I'd just do something stupid. So I'm more interested in doing it. I can do a lot of things, but I can't sit still.
Right.
And I've known some people that have made a pot of money. And I was talking to one of my buddies the other day, and he made $40 million on a deal and, quote unquote, retired. And he's miserable right now because he's just sitting there. That's a problem to have.
Right.
But so what?
Right.
And then,
so success can't be measured by a dollar amount. Not to you.
I don't.
Yeah.
Do I wish I had more? Sure. But
that's not your entrepreneurial goal. Is not to have the pile of money that you're swimming in. Your goal is to
somebody's always got more.
To connect. Yeah, there's always somebody's got more, but to connect people to the destination, because they're in a journey. So you're trying to get them to their destination. Other people.
Let me define success by what makes me happy.
Okay.
What makes me feel fulfilled. What day is it? It's Friday?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was bird hunting last weekend. Don't know when I'm going to be redeployed. So I'm kind of living in this vacuum. Talking to these guys over in Russellville, Arkansas. And on Tuesday, I was talking to him, and I said, okay, we've talked to him about this is the first time we've ever met in person.
Right.
I said, you know what, these are good guys. I'm going to go figure it out. I'm going to go put my eyes on it. And coming over here and meeting people and realizing who knows what's going to come out of this. That, to me, is successful.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
Yeah.
If something comes out of it, great. If something doesn't come out of it, it was still worth the time. And to me, it's the collective experience that gets it going.
That's great.
But let me give you another thing. Okay, this morning on LinkedIn, read something by a guy I didn't know. He's a military guy. And he said, I've done all these things, but he said, I haven't been able to find a job in a few months, and I need help. And I wrote him, and I just said, look, it takes a strong person to say I need help.
Absolutely.
Especially a man.
In the military.
And I said, I'll share your resume with everybody I know, but you helped me this morning, because I woke up this morning thinking, okay, am I doing everything I'm supposed to be doing? And then to see somebody that's hurting, and it's kind of like, okay, help them.
Help, yeah.
That is what we all should be doing.
Help others.
Help others, and you'll be fine.
Help others. Do you feel like that is a lost art in today's country?
No. I believe that there's so much noise and angst and controversy, and I think it's just noise. I think that most people in this country are like us, and it's kind of like, the shooting that happened this week. It's tragedy all the way around. It's tragedy for the family. It's tragedy for the big folks. It's tragedy for the person. I heard they caught the shooter. That guy's got a story too, and it's unimaginable that somebody would be in a place that's the only way they feel they can express themselves, and that there are people out there that are encouraging that on either side. But is it a lost art? Absolutely not.
You still think that the hope is that there's enough good people that are trying to help each other out, no matter if they disagree with each other or not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you
I'm
think
an
this?
Optimist, man.
That's good. I want to hear.
Every day I wake up on this side of the dirt. If I wanted to go out and look for bad stuff, I would not have to go far. And good stuff happens. when we wake up in the morning. It's my job to do good stuff. It's your job to do good stuff. It's everybody. Help others and move forward. I mean, that's all it ties into the economic development thing. How do we raise the old adage, raise the tide and all boats raise? You know, you've got to make an opportunity for people who aren't making it. And the way to do that, the way you create jobs is to build a business. And if you're successful, then you'll need other people to help along the way, and that is what's raising up. So,
do you feel like this country is unified right now, or do you feel like it's disunified?
I don't want to get into the political side of it, because I think that if you really study history, you'll see that it's always the same. I mean, you know, here we are today. It's going to change tomorrow. I'm an optimist. I want to believe it's good. You know,
Well, one principle that I want to run by you that Ray Dalio's, this is principle 1.1 in his business, Bridgewater, says, realize that you have nothing to fear for knowing the truth.
Yeah.
Realize that you have nothing to fear from knowing the truth. You agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. The problem is that, you know, there's truth and there's opinion, and we've gone through a phase to where we allow people to think that opinion is truth, that truth is subjective. Truth is not subjective. There are some things that are black and white, zero sum, and if you disagree with it, you're not right just because, you know.
Right.
Living in a fantasy world, you know. I'd like to identify as skinny, but I'm not, you know, so.
Well, the truth today, like you said, people think that it's subjective, but do you feel like people are speaking truth enough, or that we're just simply laying back and saying, even in business, like think of it from an entrepreneur standpoint, not just a country. If you were to start a business today and you weren't willing to have hard conversations with the people in that company and tell them the truth, would that company be successful or not?
Again, you go back to successful. I know a lot of people that make a lot of money selling snake oil. I've walked away from some of those businesses and had that conversation. We're not doing, the right thing. We're not doing it for the right reason. They were making a lot of money, but the bottom line is I didn't want to be associated with it. So I voted with my feet.
But in general, okay, however you define that success, if people aren't willing to listen, which is one of the things I've heard over and over from you today, it's like you get in a room, you listen to for the problem, right? And then you have the hard conversations about how to solve that problem. And in order to do that, you have to tell people the truth about what's going on. So if the successful business, would you say, has to be able, the leaders in that have to be able to tell the truth to each other?
I think if that is a sign of maturity and wisdom, and I think that it would be, yes, but you know, that is personal integrity reflecting through the business. I don't, you know, it goes back to love God, love your neighbor, and, you know, you can't do that and not embrace the truth. So it reflects.
Jordan Peterson says, you never have a better strategy in a complex situation than the truth.
I love Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. That's a great quote, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, but he's got a lot.
How many complex situations have you been in, I bet, over the years with all these different people and trying to bring them together and connect the dots?
Yeah.
And the most simple thing in that is just to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Right?
We'll get them to recognize it. Recognizing the truth.
Recognizing the truth. That's a good one. That's a good way to put it. Recognizing the truth.
And a lot of times it's, you know, it's truth isn't what we would consider pretty.
Or maybe what we even like.
Or, you know, and being a good Southerner, too, we're so passive-aggressive.
Right,
you know, my wife's in California, and she's a linear thinker. I mean, she tells you exactly what she's thinking, whether you want to hear it or not. one of her favorite lines is, "You know, you're not as funny as you think you are." Golly, yeah, thanks. Recognize the truth, and and saying it, saying it in truth and in love.
It starts to say you can say it with love, compassion, kindness,
respect.
and respect. Like
Yeah.
you said, you have to have respect when you get into that room.
Yeah,
But regardless, you tell the truth.
yeah.
How hard it is, right?
I've had to do that. I won't say what state it's in, but we had a mayor and his head of the city council, and they were fighting like children. And my boss, my big boss, called me and said, "Just go handle it." So I went out and I sat them both in the room. And they were suing each other over libel, and it's just pure pissing me. And I sat them down and I said, "Guys, look, I built a relationship with them and got to know them individually. And I said, look, I know y'all don't like each other, but if you need to go outside and just duke it out, do that. But you have a responsibility to your people."
Yeah.
And it was like taking your kids, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but you had to have a come to Jesus meeting.
Right.
And finally, I made them. I said, "You're not going to get any more money until you start acting like adults." And they both puffed up and said, "Well, what are we supposed to do?" And I said, "Well, you're going to sign this letter, and it says that we agree to work together, and we're going to send that letter to the emergency management director in Capital City and the governor, and you either decide to act like a frickin' adult or we're leaving." And that was tough love.
Sure.
And a lot of people wouldn't want to touch that, but it's kind of like, oh, it's too personal.
Mm-hmm. So
that's what it is.
It is, and I just got done I'm not done with it yet, but I'm enough to see the Jerry Jones Dallas Cowboys of the '90s, and of course I was 7 or 8 when all that was taking place. So this is all new information to me. So I'm watching it, thinking, how in the world does two guys at the top of the peak of 2 Super Bowls just piss it all away because they can't seem to get in the same room together?
Ego.
I mean, ego, pride.
That's it.
And I mean, I'm sure in your business in FEMA, you have to, like you just had a great example of that. And I just hope and pray that I can self-assess well enough to say what's best for my company, not for me, but for the people that work for me or the people that I'm working for, my clients. Instead of, hey, what's best for me? That's like down there, way down on the list if it's on the list at all. But we've got into a world, I believe, we're about me instead of we.
Absolutely. And we mentioned respect and difference and subjective truth and real truth. And, also, like you said, what is it? Success is right on the side of failure. You've got to understand that failure is an option. And
it's not a criteria.
It's not a criteria. It's an option. And you can decide to fail by being prideful or being arrogant or being greedy or just being stupid. And if that's the case, then you have to accept the consequences. And that's one of the things we don't like.
Right.
Those nasty consequences.
Well, it's somebody else's fault most of the time. Yeah.
And it's like, no, if you were involved, you had a piece of the success and or failure. Period.
That's right.
Are you going to own it?
Yeah.
And are you going to learn from it?
That's right. So I'm going to finish up by asking you one more question, because I ask every guest this as we leave, because I'm a big reader, and I think that in order to grow, you have to learn, and it's best to learn from others and your own experiences. Give me 3 books that you would recommend that people would read that's really made an influence on you in your life.
All right. So this is probably the last answer you would think. I mentioned earlier, very dyslexic. So I have a journalism degree, and I can barely read.
Wow, that's impressive.
So I am. I can just tell a good story.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't read a lot of books, but I learn audibly.
Listen, yeah.
So-
I listen to a lot of books too.
And
Yeah.
on the
yeah.
road all the time, man, I download and I'll listen to them. I'll crank it up to like
Yeah.
1.75, so it's
Oh,
like
wow.
Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, yeah.
But my brain works that way.
Right.
And therefore, I consume a lot of information. I don't really. Driving up here, I was listening to a book on artificial intelligence. I understood the concepts. I wanted to delve down into it. I better understand it now, but I'm in no way a technologist. So
But just three over the years that you think, hey, what?
I love anything Jordan Peterson does. His voice drives me crazy, but his intellect is there. I have very eclectic, broad range. I don't know how to answer that because I just media. Sometimes I'll get on a podcast thing and just. And really, I don't read a lot of business books. I'd rather dig down into the philosophical or psychological elements that are key because, they talk about it like some business, 7 ways to do it. Okay, yeah. That's just productization of a concept. I want to know the concept, and I like books like C.S. Lewis. I learn more from something like that because to me that's more of a core. And then how do you apply?
And his core would be
reality.
His core of that would be the Bible, right?
Yeah, his relationship with God, and that is the essential foundational element. And are you going to be respectful? Are you going to be honest? Are you going to treat your fellow man? That's what that's about. And if you build a business, it's going to reflect that. It's
Right.
you're not going to learn something from a business book. You'll learn tricks through a business book. But anything else like that is just a reflection of something that's much deeper. Some people don't like that. I do. I'm just weird like that.
Both of your principles come from something or someone.
A foundation.
A foundation. And your foundation?
Love God, love your neighbor.
Love God, love your neighbor. That's a great foundation. And I really appreciate you sharing that and sharing all your great stories that you have over the years. You've just full of great information, and I'm grateful that you're here today and told us those and told us these principles.
Can I give you one more story?
Absolutely.
This is the greatest entrepreneurial story
Okay.
I've got. Okay. So I told you earlier that we had this company that we traded. And so we had these venture capitalists in Raleigh that wanted to talk to us because, Red Hat's growing out of there. And so they sent their jet over to pick us up. And it's me and my partner, and I got this college professor, and I've got these 3 other students, brilliant kids. And they'd never been in a jet before. We fly over. And I'd met with the VC guys earlier, and they said, this all looks good, but when the head guy asks you, how much do you need? Do not say, how much will you give me? Or how much you got? He said, that shows that you don't know what you're worth.
Right.
I sat the professor down and said, okay, there's only one rule, and that's it. So we get in the jet, we fly over there, and they're wining and dining us and all this kind of stuff, and we get in the meeting, and everything's great, and we get to the question. And the head guy at the head of the table says, so how much you need? And I'd written the guy a note, and I slid it over in front of him, and he looks at this guy, and he goes, well, how much you think it's worth? How much you give me? And the head guy closed the portfolio and said, thank y'all for coming. Have a nice day. And I looked at the professor and I said, you blew it.
Yeah.
So they pile us, put us, smile and get us back on the plane. And it's just a short ride in a Learjet from Raleigh to Oxford. And we're up, and the professor goes, well, what do you think happened? I said, well, you screwed it up. That's what happened. Failure.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, what do we do next? And I said, I'll tell you what we do next. We drink all the whiskey and eat all the peanuts on this airplane because y'all are never going to see this time again. And they barely did a rolling stop before they kicked our drunk butts off in Oxford. But that was failure.
Right.
And it's kind of like, what do we learn from that, people?
Right. Exactly.
What do we learn from it? And they told us, it's like when you're doing sales, people will tell you what they want.
Yeah. If you're
Listen to
listening,
'em.
if you're listening, yeah.
Anyway,
if you're listening.
That was failure.
Yeah.
We rebounded.
It's hard to say. You have to rebound after a couple times. I think I heard a quote from John Wayne. He beat some guy up, and he said, somebody beat him up, and he said, hey, I'm going to get up one more time than you knock me down, so you better get used to it, And so I think about that at times when I'm had one of those days.
Mm-hmm.
I got knocked down. I'm getting up one more time, you knock me down. Thank you again, John, for being here and for being all the kind words about Arkansas. We're excited about that, and I'll make sure I get your number so that I can text you when Arkansas kicks Ole Miss butt this weekend.
Oh, we'll talk about
that. So I'll be happy to text you that. And
I need to get your number because my wife's already looking at houses over here.
Oh, so, well, we got some beautiful stuff for sure over here. All right, John, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Okay.